TV land. It's your boy Freelancer Joe here. Well, today it's just Joe because once again we are having a nice relaxing session of Drinks with Joe. Yes, it's the time of the week where I sit back, relax, have a drink or two or three, and reflect back on my past week's accomplishments, triumphs, travails, and just try to figure out where I'm going next. Because, well, if you want to know where you're going, it helps to figure out where you've been. So, naturally, I still haven't figured out what the deal is with my DSLR just cutting off in the middle of recording. Clearly it's some sort of setting, maximum clip length or whatever, but no, I don't want you to get the impression that I'm the kind of guy that just can't figure those sorts of things out. I just didn't bother trying to look into it today. But then again, I did try to look into it the last time and I didn't figure it out. So I do still have the instruction manual though, so I just need to dig around for that, or you could always just Google it. But anyway, rambling. Point is, I'm going to work with my limitation instead of just constantly clashing against it. So around the 15-minute mark, I will have an intermission. I mean, really, when I upload this video, it'll be just like a 5-second break where I put in some meme of some kind, but yeah. This time it will be planned and not me just being cut off and looking the fool. More the fool. More foolish. Looking like normal. So, what did I get done this week? Well, as far as the freelancing activities go, it's been really good. I did a lot of work on the style redesign for my client, the wonderful folks at Bella Music School, located in picturesque Leonardtown, Maryland. If you ever need lessons, check them out. I did the redesign, and I did put it up on a temporary website and sent the link to the client, and the client does like it. They do like the new style. Very impressed with it. Still not in love with the font though, which really kind of surprises me because I thought I nailed that one. But I just can't get a read on what they want. So rather than doing the whole back and forth thing, I just sent them the link to the Google Font website, and then they can just go ahead and scroll through and pick the one they want. I probably should have warned them though that they need to be careful about what they pick, because a couple of times when I was messing around with the fonts, they rendered some of the words, in my opinion, unreadable. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. I don't know in the future what the best way to handle that would be. Because on the one hand, you want to make suggestions for the, well, I guess I could make suggestions, and then if it looks like I'm not on the right track, then we just resort to this. So it's kind of a tiered approach, really. I guess that makes sense. And then there's the matter of the stock images. And again, with that one, I don't know if really it should be me going through and picking those out, or the client. But then again, it depends, right? If the client has specific tastes or specific things that they want, then I can only make a best guess. And, well, you know, if they decide to find other ones, or I can point them to places where they can find other ones, then that's probably the way to go. Anyway, so really the ball's in their court now at this point, as far as the site goes. They want to come up with some images, they pick the font, and then the wording. The wording was something else. Again, that was something I could have taken a stab at. Stab. Taking a stab at to punch up. Oh, I'm very violent today. Stab, punch. But I feared that I would just maim it. The thing is, well, I don't know. I don't have enough knowledge of the Belleville Music School, the clients, to know, what their vision is, how they do things. I suppose that's one drawback of, well, no, I mean, even if I was physically located with them, that's the sort of thing that you just pick up over time. So, who best to come up with the words about the client than the client? But I think if they just come up with like the basic things, then we can do it back and forth where I punch it up and revise and iterate and revise. The alcohol's not kicking in yet, but it's all the talking. Yep, your boy Freelancer Joe's still not quite used to all the exposition. The expositing. I think that's the word, expositing. Yeah. I mean, these are the conversations I have in my head, but they sound much cooler because I'm not tripping over my tongue saying it. Anyway, so as far as the style stuff, it's in the client's court. So where does that leave me and things that I can do? Again, I could revise the code itself, clean it up, and that were there nothing else to do, that would be a valid path to follow. But since there's still going to be more things that need changing, I imagine, then it's still very much in a draft state. So there's, it's like if you look at a drawing that's in progress, you'll see that the artist often has lots of multiple lines. It's a cool effect, but when you look at the final product, it's much cleaner. I think more like a comic book artist, right? They do the pencil sketch, and then they have an inker come in to make the line solid, and then the colorist to fill it out. So like that. Code, much like that. There's a certain point when you're good enough that you can go ahead and remove things, and I don't feel that we're at that point just yet. So, what have I been doing? Well, let me see. I mean, I put up the website on Thursday, and then I notified the client and had my discussion with them on Friday. So what did I do today, and what other work have I done? Well, so the first step is to make sure, what I'm calling phase one with this particular client, is to get the style and the look right. And I think we've made sufficient progress on that. So the next step would be to get them off of, they're on a hosted website, a company, what's the word I'm looking for here? One of those website hosting services, which definitely, depending upon your intent and your budget, is not a bad way to go. I mean, there are definite advantages to it, which I don't know if I've talked about this before, but right. So I mean, most of the common ones nowadays, they have drag and drop website interfaces, they have templates, they have a lot of built-in things, and then or assuming that the company is doing their job, that all those things are tested, they have a staff dedicated to making sure that things stay up. So that's all, pretty good. And the downside, from my perspective anyway, is that, well, one, you're really constrained by what tools they have available. Two, the actual cost for running the things isn't all that expensive. You pay a lot for things that might not be needed. And also, if you take advantage of their more advanced features, that generally tends to run you more money too. And what's the final point? I was going to say a final point. Okay, maybe now the alcohol is kicking in. I forget the final point. Okay, so we get the cost. We got the restriction. Oh, right. So, and then the other thing is that as a, if you're a consumer of that site, that means you probably are running a business. And is it an efficient use of a business owner's time to be doing that sort of thing? Whereas with what my approach is going to be is kind of a one and done deal, and you move them to a very low cost infrastructure, and then if something, well, so here's the thing, right? If you're running something on Amazon, for example, Amazon's pricing structure is based on use. So they have an incentive to make sure that those things are always up and running. I mean, because if it's not up and running, if their servers, their infrastructure isn't up and running, well, I mean, one, obviously they're in trouble because all of their services are working, and two, everyone else piggybacked on top of them. I mean, their stuff's not working, and if their stuff's not working, then it can't be used, and if it can't be used, then Amazon can't get money from that either. So there's still a vested interest as far as Amazon's concerned with keeping things up and running, but not necessarily your specific website. But so in that particular case, if something like that does happen, well, then you would call somebody like me back in. So what would be basically maybe an hour's worth of work for me, that might only happen, you know, once a year, if even, right? Just if something goes wrong, and that's much more cheaper, I'm guessing, than, you know, paying a monthly fee to some company, some other company. At least oh, okay, so I'm kind of going along on that. I just went on the whole tangent of that. But so phase one was the style, then phase two was to get my client off of that hosted service onto the Amazon infrastructure for the reasons that I just stated. I think in the long run, well, yeah, in the long run, it will be much cheaper for them. Not that I figured out how much I would charge normally. This is for a friend, so discount rates apply, of course. But my guess is it would probably be equivalent to anywhere from 6 months to 1 year on a hosted service. Now that depends on the level of complication involved too. But then the cost savings alone for that second and follow-up years, it's dramatically different. I think it's something like, you know, maybe $20-25 on the current site, and on Amazon, my site last month was 50 cents. Granted, I don't have any traffic, but yeah. And so we are coming to our intermission point. So I hope you will bear with me, and I'll see you in just a couple of seconds. Alright, and now we're back. Thank you for staying, if you stayed, if anybody's watching. Think somebody's watching. I should probably check the analytics at some point. But I'm still very much in the phase of just getting in the routine of generating the content, as well as getting accustomed to having to blab for so long. So before the intermission, I talked about phase 1, which was style for the client, phase 2, which would be moving them to Amazon Web Services, and then phase 3, of course, is adding all the cool stuff. And I think that's really where another giant cost savings is going to be, because there's just so many services available on Amazon for a fraction of the price, because it's all based on how much you use it. That could be really beneficial to businesses. The limitation with web service hosting companies, of course, is that you're limited to generally whatever their options are, and using those options usually incurs some premium. Whereas with something like Amazon, you got the initial hit of building it, but after that, it's just how much it gets used, and you may occasionally have to do an update. They do routinely obsolete certain things, deprecate things, supported languages, server instances, but I'm not going for setting up servers for clients. This is all stateless. Not stateless, serverless, which is, for most people, really the way you want to go, to be honest. I mean, until you get up to maybe mid-size. But at mid-size, you're going to have a dedicated IT staff, system administrators, that kind of thing anyway. So, but yeah, the phase 3 stuff's going to be cool, because they want to do billing and scheduling and events, and this is a lot of things that aren't possible in the current framework that I can do for them, and probably even more. So yeah, and in preparation for that, so one of the things I started when last week when I was at my undisclosed location, and what I continued working on today was getting an AWS Lambda working that will be used with the contact form. The contact form on the client side right now, it just takes in the information and validates it. I don't actually check the format on the email. Make sure so that all the fields are there, but it doesn't do anything. So now I have a Lambda that actually can receive input, and then we'll send an email to a designated email address. And I had that part working last weekend, but what I did today was adjust it so that it can actually take in what I'm going to send it, which is the name, the subject, and the message, and then the email that's generated contains that information. And then above that, I added an API gateway. So the Lambdas are all really internal within Amazon. It's what they use for a lot of things between their own services. They're not really something that is exposed externally. So to facilitate that, there is another Amazon service called the API Gateway, which basically exposes a web endpoint there that you can access and call. And I did set that up, and I did tie it into the Lambda, and I did test it from my virtual environment to send the information in there, and it fired, and I checked my spam folder, and there was the email with the information I sent. Yeah, the spam folder, because basically it was from me, my email address, and Amazon or Google, it was like, this looks like spam. So, yeah, I mean, that'll need some adjustment, but still, that's pretty good. That means it would be minor. It'll only take like an hour or two to basically get the contact form to be sending the information from the website, web application, to that Lambda. Of course, right now this is my Lambda, because I also plan eventually, I'm probably going to do it first, is to have a contact form on my website. So right now this Lambda is all linked to my account, because my client isn't set up for Amazon yet. And ideally, they get set up after phase 2. When they're all set up, then we can host their website under their account. We can set up the Lambda under their account. We can set up the gateway under their account. I mean, in theory, again, it could all be under my account. Don't like that too much. Again, you get billed based on how much it's used, and if something goes wrong, I don't want to be the one getting billed for it. But I mean, Amazon's good. They have throttles on there, and then they'll let you know if things are running hot. They also have analytics too. And right now, they project that my monthly bill for August is going to be 80 cents. Actually, I think right now it's still around 55. And it's only that high because I've been putting up the temporary websites for the client. So, where does that mean? What does that mean for me going forward? Well, so the client still has to make their decisions, and then they're busy too. They have their own lives. They're still running their business and life in general. So in the interim, I will continue the infrastructure work. I will likely, for tomorrow's video, it will probably be me doing some work on my own website. I might actually go ahead and get that contact form in there, as well as some style changes. Let's see what else. I could also expand what my Lambdas do. So right now, so I mentioned the API gateway, that's an Amazon Web Service, and there's the AWS Lambdas, Amazon Web Service, but that Lambda talks to Amazon's simple email service. Amazon's got services out the wazoo. It's awesome. But yeah, so email is one thing, but the two things that I also need to explore. One is their database stuff. The one that always comes up is DynamoDB. And that could be one choice. Another one is, I know Lambdas, and I have experience with both Dynamo and S3, but it's been months. So Lambdas can also interact with the S3, which is the storage service. So one option would be to have the Lambda pull a configuration file from S3, and we use that as opposed to what I'm doing. Including the Webpack stuff. Okay, so now I'm not so sure about that. The issue with that is, so I have my local configuration file, right? What I could do is just have it in S3, and then whenever the user wants to make a change, then they just upload that configuration file to S3. The web application calls the Lambda serves up that file. That's great. The problem is when developing, because I really don't want my local box having to go call that Lambda to pull the file from S3. The Lambda limitations are pretty high. I mean, you don't get, Amazon doesn't start charging you until after like 1 million requests for the month. And S3's got a pretty high threshold too. So I mean, if I change something, then I gotta upload it. That'd be cumbersome. I could just do a flag when the application starts up. If the flag is set, to local, it'll just pull the local values, store it in the application state, since I'm using Redux anyway, and we'll use that there. And if it's set to external, it'll call the Lambda when the application starts up, call the Lambda. Lambda serves with the file, the application reads the results and takes those results and puts it in the application state. Okay, well, that'll work. And that means that I don't have to really mess around with figuring out Webpack and how to... that's pretty good. That's pretty good. As much as I like Webpack, the plugin thing is just really, really annoying. Because each plugin can be different and... yeah. Anyway, so... path moving forward is I start getting into some of the cooler things, and hopefully that will be interesting for you. Let me see, we're closing up. I got a couple minutes left, not many. What to talk about? Personal-wise, I had a nice week off from training. I took a, I'm not sure if it was necessarily overdue, but it was probably needed. A week off from training, recover from just a rest. You don't want to overtrain. And truth be told, there were some nagging injuries that were kind of bugging me, and I think they're all pretty much cleared out. Unfortunately, I also took a break from the diet, and yeah, the damage is... I mean, you'd be kind of cool with like a 5-pound swing, maybe even up to 7 or 8. 15 pounds in a week, and it's still just one meal a day. Granted, they were big freaking meals, but oh man, well, I got it down before, I'll get it down again. And then it'll go back up again. Well, on the plus side, I should hopefully have lots of energy for at least the next 2 weeks. Well, for the training, I'm gonna feel sluggish when I do go back to the low carb diet thing. And what do they call it? The keto flu or whatever. It's real. When your body switches from diet with carbs or diet with no carbs, those first couple days as the body's making that switch, it's not pleasant. But you know, it was nice not actually being hungry. And then someone kind of made noises when it was time to eat, but it's like, someone's like, I think I was supposed to make the noises now. I mean, if you feed me, I'll take it, but and that's probably why it was 15 pounds, because I did feed it a lot. Yeah. Well, we're close enough now. I hope that you have had a relaxing time with me. I hope you were able to enjoy a drink of your own, whatever your particular drink of choice may be. And I hope that you will join me next time. The cool comment thing, like, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. In the meantime, I hope you have an enjoyable weekend and that you take care, and God bless.